All right, what's up? It's your boy Anthony Simmons with Higher Heights, and you already know what it is. I'm here to discuss a topic tonight dealing with Dwayne Wade and his son being transgender. I believe his son right now is around 13 or 14 at this time. At the time his son came out, I believe his son was about 12, which he calls her by the pronoun her now. I want to discuss this tonight. I want to talk about, is it right for him to not only call his son by the pronoun her, but is it right for his son to be almost the poster child for this movement they have going on? Before I get into this real quick, I want y'all to understand that I know that in 2022, we live in a world where we're still fighting for racial equality. We're still fighting for gender equality. We're definitely fighting for sexual preference, equality, treating people fairly. And I totally understand that. And while everybody has the right to have their own opinion, understand that what you're going to hear tonight is my opinion, but it's also going to be based and rooted in what I know to be fact. So with that being said, we're going to get into this video. But before we get into this video, I need y'all to run those likes up. You hear me? Run those likes up for me, because I love to do these podcasts and I love the response I've been getting from you all from the podcast. I greatly appreciate it. So run those likes up if you're watching. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. With no further ado, let's get into this video. Dwayne Wade. Now, I heard this story a few years back where Dwayne Wade said that his son came to him and said that he wanted to be called her. And so he changed his son's name and started referring to his son as her. Now, of course, as a heterosexual male, as a believer in God, I will tell you that I do not think that's right. That is what I feel. Now, do I have the right to tell somebody else how to feel? No, I don't have that right. Neither is it my right to judge you how you want to be. Now, I'm not going to judge your sexual preference, but when it comes to a child, y'all, this is my thoughts about a child. One, if we know that sexual preference, we don't want our children having sex before they are adults, before they mature enough to make a decision on whether or not to have sex, right? Can we all agree that there's a certain age that we don't even want our children being sexually active, period, whether heterosexual or homosexual? We can agree with that, right? Now, we can all agree that when a child is of a certain age, we feel like they haven't even came into themselves, right? They haven't discovered who they are, really. This is why we don't agree with pedophilia. We don't agree with an adult being able to take advantage of a young child, because that child has not fully came into their own. They haven't understood who they are. They're not informed totally about the decisions that they can make. And we don't believe that they should be able to fully make that decision on their own. So a relationship between an adult and a child cannot be consensual. And that's agreed upon across the board with a lot of people. With most people, we agree that a relationship between an adult and a minor cannot be consensual. So if we are to agree that a relationship between an adult and a minor cannot be consensual, and the consensus reason is because that minor is not old enough to make that decision on whether or not they should be doing what they're doing, then how come when it comes to sexual gender, we're saying that Dwayne Wade is saying, hey, you want to be called her at 12 years old, at 13 years old, then it's fine. Now, understand this. I understand a father trying to be supportive. And I understand that we live in the age where we're trying to open up to our feelings more. We're trying to be able to discuss and be able to have an open door policy with our children and understand more. But you can't live both ways. You can't have it both ways. You can't say in one regard the child is not old enough to make a decision, but in this other regard, I'll call you a her. Even though if the child is not old enough to make a cognitive decision whether or not they should have sex right now, period, then how can they be choosing what sexual orientation or what gender? This is a lifelong decision that this child is making. Now, don't even get me started on how some of these Hollywood people live, first of all. Now, here's another step that I want to take it to. Even if your son has made this decision to become your daughter, even if you're very supportive of it, Dwayne Wade, I think there's another agenda here. I think there's a total other agenda at play here that nobody's looking at. And I said this years ago on one of my lives. Dwayne Wade, if your child has made this decision and if you support this decision, this should be kept in-house. This should be kept within the realms and confines of your home. The fact that you're not only letting your son make the decision to make this transition, not only are you supporting this transition, but you're making your child the poster child for this. There's a greater agenda at hand. Don't tell me that there isn't, because you're letting your child literally be campaigning as the spokesperson. Now, who is this going to affect, Dwayne Wade? This is not just affecting your family. You are an influencer. You have a platform. So by your child being all over the news, by your child taking these photos and being all over these social media platforms and you coming out in support, cool, Father of the Year. But you got other people's homes that this is influencing. And don't pretend like you don't understand what I'm talking about. You are a Hall of Fame NBA player. You have a platform. You have a voice in the community. And you choose to put your son on campaign. And I have no problem if this is what you want to do in your house. I have no problem if you want to be a loving and supporting father to your son. Make no mistake about what I'm saying and mince no words here. I understand that part. Even though I don't agree, we can agree to disagree on that. Where I cannot rock with you, Dwayne Wade, is all this publicity behind it. Because however you feel about your son and however supportive you are of your son, you ought to be mindful that everybody does not believe that way. And just like you feel like you should respect your son's wishes and honor what your son wants to do, you ought to be respectful of other people's children who your son has the ability to influence. Not only your son, but you got this influence too. See, this is the whole problem with everybody's sexual orientation and everything else and wanting to switch genders. This is the problem that I have. Because just like race, I believe God called us to be different. I was meant to be a black man. You was meant to be a white man. You was meant to be Chinese. I believe that just because you believe this way, we can still get along in this world and move along. I don't have to interconnect with that circle if I don't agree. And I don't have to hate that circle because I don't agree. But what is bothering me about other people is not only good enough that you respect and honor them in their decision, you have to agree with their decision. Their agenda has to be pushed down your neck as well. And that's just not the way we rocking over here at Higher Heights. So what do y'all say? Do you agree with Dwayne Wade in his decision to refer to his son as her? Because are you on the 2022 wave of, hey, this is what it is, just accept it? Or are you like me saying, hey, whatever y'all choose to do, keep it private? But if you don't keep it private, I know that there's an agenda that you have. And I know whose side you on. It don't have to be made public. Y'all be blessed.